Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how to use Dishonored Tweaks. Tweaks is a program created by SoftSound that allows you to make some changes and get the game ready and set up for speedrunning. This video is going to focus on getting you ready for speedrunning. The program has other uses, I'm sure, but this video focuses on getting you ready to speedrun the game. The video is going to go through a little bit of an intro on what the program is and how to download it first, then what other things you need to get ready. Then I'm going to run through and just quickly go over some recommended settings if you just want to watch till that point and get through and start running after that, then that's fine. And then at the end, I'm going to go into some in-depth stuff of what the different settings are, and also how to fully uninstall tweaks if you want to do that later on. If you have any questions about anything I say in this video, or questions about how to get set up or something that doesn't work, I would like to start by saying that you can go into the Dishonored speedrunning Discord by going to speedrun.com/dishonored and finding the Discord button here and pressing it. This will get you invited into Dishonored speedrunning. So first things first, where do you download tweaks? Tweaks can be found in the description of this video. It will link you to the GitHub for the program. It can also be found under resources on speedrun.com. I will go to releases and download the first release. So just download the zip, don't bother with the source code. I will then extract this. Sure, I'll extract it to the downloads folder. Put this, I'm going to keep it in the downloads folder, but put the Dishonored Tweaks program somewhere where you can get to it later on. You'll want to have this available in case you want to change patches in the future. So put this maybe in documents, your desktop, I don't know where you keep your programs, but keep it where you keep other programs. You want to, before you start using tweaks, you'll want to have downloaded Dishonored on Steam. The program will only work with the Steam version for technical reasons that I will not get into right now. So you'll want to have Dishonored downloaded through Steam, and you'll want to launch the game once. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to launch the game. It's going to have a bunch of intro movies and stuff that I'm just going to speed on through. And then as soon as I'm done and have gotten to the main menu, I'm going to close the game. It's going to run the install scripts here. Now, so this looks weird right now because I have this monitor set to a higher resolution right now. But as you can see, I have launched the game and everything is normal. The in-game frame rate cap, as you can see from RTSS or from the Steam overlay over here, shows I'm at 130 FPS, which is the default maximum. So you can see this is a fresh install of Dishonored. If I go into the mission tab, you can see I have access to all of the DLCs. Then quit the game. Now that we have launched the game once, we can start the tweaks program. Just double-clicking it. I trust that this is not a virus. And yeah, now we have the program open. So here we have some decisions to make. Right at the start, there is a button here to change which language the program is in. It's currently available in English and Russian. I don't speak Russian, so I'm going to keep it in English. If you prefer Russian, do the Russian version. Then right at the start here, we'll want to make sure that the starting setup is done. So it has found the document configs. That's good. That means that I launched the game once. And then I want to select the game directory. This might be saved in different places depending on whether or not your Steam library is in the normal location. But usually, if you go to this PC and you haven't changed where Steam saves games, local disk, program files, Steam, Steam apps, common, and here you have Dishonored. So you'll want to select this folder, the one just called Dishonored, not the one inside called Dishonored game. Just want to make sure you choose Dishonored. And then you are ready to start using the program. So the recommended settings, if you're going to be speedrunning Dishonored, quickly going to go through them. and you want to speedrun the main game, you'll want to be on patch 1.2 here. You'll want to enable the boil RNG fix if you're doing any %, and you want to disable it if you're doing anything else than any %. If you're doing glitchless, if you're doing legacy, if you're doing 100%, non-lethal ghost, all collectibles, you'll want to disable the boil RNG fix because the fix is not allowed in those other categories. Then I'm going to press apply selected patches here. What this is going to do is it's going to change the game to be on version 1.2. And while it does that, it's also going to create a backup. You see it says the baseline backup has not been created. This is just the program making a backup of your clean install of Dishonored so that it can revert to it later when it changes patches if you want to change back. As you can see, the program has successfully applied the patch, and that means we are done on this page for the recommended settings. You can now see also that the baseline backup is ready. In the game tweaks, you are going to want to just copy what I do here. By default, this shows the ones that are default in the game, like the ones that came with when you download the game through Steam. They are not very good for speedrunning purposes. You'll want to keep the frame rate limiter enabled. Change the frame rate to 250. Press apply. You'll want to disable dynamic lights, dynamic shadows, light shafts. You'll want to skip startup movies and pause when unfocused. Then the settings are updated. No need to apply anything after this. Only the FPS value has to be applied. Then for the input tweaks, you'll want to have jump on either scroll up or down. I prefer to have it on down. And interact on the one the jump is not on. So in this case, scroll up. Then there are these frame rate binds. By default, they are set to F2, 3, 4, and F7. I would recommend just keeping them there for now. And then if you end up using them and want to change them, you can come back and change them later. Console bind and cheats bind, those can also stay the same. They're not really relevant to actual runs, only to practice. Then a slightly longer little tutorial here for the macro than the rest of what I've done for these tweaks. The macro is a program created by SOM1 LSE or someone else. And someone has made a program that emulates the scroll wheel for us. And the program works really well when it works. But since Windows 11 got released, there have been some issues with it. So if you are having issues with the macro after you've completed the setup I'm about to go through, come and ask at the Speedrunning Discord, and we will find you an alternative solution. So, when I go here, I'm going to start by pressing download and update macro. Okay, now the macro is installed. As you can see, it shows me where the macro is installed. This is also relevant to keep in mind because you'll want to have this program open every time you launch the game, and you might not want to go through tweaks every time. So you could maybe change this to again be next to where you save tweaks, for example, so that you have them close to each other. For Dishonored 1, the default scroll down bind you definitely don't want to have on space. This will break elevators. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, but you want to have this on something else. I personally have it on caps lock. That's a hot take, I know, but any button will work as long as it's not the same as your jump button. So for example, you can put it on C. And to change the bind, you just, click inside of here and then press a button. This button will not be able to be used for anything else. So if you, for example, put this to W, you will not be able to walk forwards. So that's bad. Make sure it's only on something that isn't used for anything else. Now the interval here is how often the macro will fire. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. Just set it to 1 for Dishonored 1. This is called Dish 2 macro. It was originally created for Dishonored 2, so we have to make these changes for Dishonored 1. Now, if I press launch macro here, you'll see the macro open, and it will tell me what it's bound to, how often it fires, aka how many times per second. So in this case, if I press C, it will fire 1,000 times a second. Great. If you see this, you are ready. And you need to have this window open when you're running the macro. Okay? Okay. I'm going to close the macro for now. I'm also going to, in this video, cover how to set up Livesplit, which is the timer we use for Dishonored. Livesplit has 3 functions that make it really good for us. It has automatic splitting, which means it will split your run into segments for easier comparison. It has automatic removal of loads, or load removal as we call it, which means that your load times will be removed from your final time if you have set it up Livesplit correctly. And this means we can have easier comparison of different times on different hardwares. It also includes a speed up component for Dishonored, which means it will speed up cutscenes to 10 times speed when there are really long cutscenes, which just means that you don't have to watch as many cutscenes during your runs, and it will deal with the speed up in both your timer and the game so that it is comparable to not using the component. Super sick. That part is made by Dr. T-Chops. Really, really good for this community. So to set up Livesplit, you want to go to livesplit.org. It will also be linked in the description of this video. You want to go to downloads and download the newest version. Extract this zip file to somewhere where you can find it again, because you want to be able to access this program later. What I would do now is go to speedrun.com/dishonored, and from there you can go to resources and download what is called blank any percent splits. This is a file that will allow you to double click it, and it will have ready stats or ready splits for the game. So intro, present, all of that ready. Then once you've downloaded those splits, right click the split file, press edit splits, and press activate on load removal and auto splitting. Then press settings next to the activate button and enable everything in here. The most important one is the cutscene speedups enabled. This will allow the game to speed up to 10 times speed, as previously mentioned. Now, as long as all of that has been done correctly, this timer will automatically start when you start a run and also automatically end at the end of a run. One very important part about setting up Livesplit is that for your time to be accepted when you are using the speed up component, you have to set your comparison to game time. This means that we see the time with the sped up timer from the cutscenes being sped up. And the way you do this is by right-clicking Livesplit, going to compare against, and clicking game time. Now it will show the timer sped up instead of just your real time. Very important if you want your time to be accepted when you submit for the leaderboards. And I'm going to go into tweaks and now do a little bit of a longer run through of what these different settings are. One thing to keep in mind is that there is this information button here that also gives you more information about what the different buttons are. So the biggest and most important one to go through in depth that I didn't already is the patch version. This is basically different patches of the game, different releases that were made for the game. Patch 1.2 is an old version of the game from before the release of the first DLC. Actually, it is the release of the first DLC. It's the release of the Dunwall City Trials. And it was a patch that has some glitches that are really useful for speedrunning, and therefore it is the defaulted one for speedrunning the main game. It specifically allows you to clip through some floors and some roofs and some other small shenanigans to do with collision with objects. If you are, however, going to speedrun, for example, Knife of Dunwall, that isn't included in patch 1.2. So you need to patch to 1.3. Same thing for Brigmore Witches, except it's 1.4. There is functionally no difference between the choice here called 1.4 Brigmore Witches and the 1.5 latest. These are exactly the same. Use whichever one you want. This one only does a little bit extra telemetry, aka it will send some information about your game to Bethesda so that they know who's playing their game. But yes, if you don't care about that, then either one of these will work, and both of these have functioning auto splitters and everything, so don't worry about it. Then there is this extra one called 1.4 Dowd Honored. This is a mod of the game which allows you to place Dowd in the base game. And it's really cool, but keep in mind that Dishonored for speedrunning is not allowed in any category except for specifically the one called Dishonored on the Dishonored category extensions. So unless you're running Dishonored, you shouldn't be playing on Dishonored. So right now my game is on 1.2 base game, right? So I applied the selected patches. I already did this, but I'm paranoid, so I'm going to do it again. Then as soon as that finishes, I'm going to launch the game and just show you how you can check in-game which patch you are on. So assuming you own all of the DLC, you will be able to tell which patch you are on by going and pressing into downloadable content. As you can see here now, earlier when I launched the game, I could see all 3 DLCs in this menu. I could see Dunwall City Trials, then Knife of Dunwall, then Bring More Witches. But now that I'm on patch 1.2, Knife of Dunwall and Bring More Witches haven't been released yet. They are not in this patch. And so, only Dunwall City Trials shows up. This is the same thing if you go to 1.3, then it will show Dunwall City Trials and Knife of Dunwall. And if you're on 1.4 or 1.5, it will show all 3. So that's an easy way to check that it has actually downpatched. As you can see now also, the changes I made it so that my frame rate here shows 250 frames per second, which means that those changes have worked as well. The Timsh RNG fix and the Boyle RNG fix are 2 fixes for the randomness in Lady Boyle's Last Party, and also the Timsh one is for the second mission of Knife of Dunwall, which I'm forgetting the name of. These are fixes in the sense that they are modifications to the game that set the RNG to a specific outcome. They don't fix a bug, they fix a piece of randomness to not be random. They're allowed for some categories. The Timsh RNG fix is allowed in Knife of Dunwall any percent, the Boyle RNG fix in normal game any percent. If you're unsure if a category allows the fix, what I would do is then, for example, go into Dishonored and any percent here. Press Show Rules, Category Rules, and then if you check here and you read the rules, it will tell you that, for example, here in any percent, runs in this category are allowed to use the Boyle RNG fixer. If I then go to all collectibles instead and I check the same rules, use of the Boyle RNG fixer is banned in this category. Banned in all collectibles, allowed in any percent. So on game tweaks, a little bit more in depth here. The changes we made here for the frame rate limiter is because certain tricks are very inconsistent at 130 frame rate, and they're very consistent at 250. Note that for the speedrunning leaderboards, you are not allowed to go above 250. Other than that, the rest of these checks and balances, like, you can just do whatever you want. But I would definitely recommend disabling dynamic lights, shadows, and light shafts. The game, again, very frame rate dependent for certain tricks. These can hog your frame rate in certain locations, and especially make it so that your frame rate after going through a load zone is a little bit lower for a little bit longer than what you would like. So by disabling these, you can have a more stable frame rate, which is very, very nice for speedrunning. Definitely recommend turning this off. The check here to skip the startup movies is really just skipping all of those like Arcane Studios, Bethesda Softworks, Unreal Engine pop-ups that happen, so it just saves you time every time you launch the game. I see no reason to ever have this turned off. When it comes to pause when unfocused, this is more of a preference thing. Here you can go either way. But as far as I know, everyone always plays with pause when unfocused disabled. This just means that when you tab out of the game doesn't go into the pause menu, the escape menu. Now for the input tweaks, in the scroll wheel section here, you can bind jump to scroll down and interact to scroll up, and vice versa. This is allowed on the leaderboards and always, or has been for a very long time. Things that this allows you to do is to really spam these inputs very quickly. And it's important that you don't bind these to the same one, or actually it won't let you. That's good. Soft Sound is very smart when he set this up. And these are just to make it easier to spam, jump, and interact. This is used all the time, and just recommend messing around with it. Do whatever feels right for you in terms of which one is up and down. The FPS keys here, or frame rate keys, are buttons that allow you to change your frame rate while playing the game. I will not get into every single trick where this is useful right now, But 5 FPS, 250, and 2.5 or 2.46 as this is set to, are very useful for certain tricks. Some of them are, sometimes it's absolutely mandatory in order to get the tricks, sometimes it's not. But if you're just like, ugh, I don't want to speedrun with frame rate binds, then just fucking don't. Just run without them. It's not mandatory in order to get into the game. But keep these in mind when you get to a little bit of a higher level, and if you're watching like a world record video or some other resource, you might suddenly see the game lag, and it might not be because the stream dropped frames. It might just be because the player has pressed one of these buttons. Using these buttons is banned in glitchless and legacy. So if you're running glitchless, you're not allowed to change your frame rate on the fly. The console and the cheats are very useful for practicing. The console here refers to the in-game developer console. And that is like it is in a lot of Source games and a lot of other games, just have a console where you can type commands to give the game commands. This can be very useful when you're practicing. It lets you load levels, it lets you spawn in weapons, it lets you fly around, enter no-clip mode, invulnerability. A lot of these commands are locked behind having the cheat mode enabled. So then you want to have both of these bound to different buttons if you are using them, so that you can open the console and enable cheat mode separately. Because opening the console in and of itself is not illegal in a speedrun, but if you enable cheats mode, then your run is automatically denied from the leaderboards if you are in cheat mode at any point and you continue from that point onwards. Then the run is invalid. The macro I kind of covered in detail already. Again, the only thing you might really want to change here that I didn't go into that much earlier is where this is saved. There is also the option to have 2 different macro instances running, because as you can see, the macro right now only allows you to set the interval to 1 speed, and you might want to have a different speed for scroll down and scroll up. So by having a separate macro instance, like let's say instead of having it inside of dish2 macro, I go in here and I make a new folder called scroll up macro. And then inside of there, we press select folder. And then we say that the scroll up bind is going to be n, and the interval here is going to be 10. Pressing delete removes the bind here, by the way. The bind is going to be n and the interval is going to be 10. So now I can download that macro. And now we have 2 different macro folders. So one of them is here. When I launch this, it is C every 1 millisecond for 1,000. When I launch the one inside of scroll up macro, it is bound to space every 5 milliseconds. Oh, so I didn't change this. It is set to space. Okay. So yeah, then I can have 2 different instances running at different speeds for up and down. Having 2 different instances is allowed for the speedrun of Dishonored 1. And yeah, that's basically how you use tweaks to set up your game. This tutorial is way longer than it has to be. At the very end here, I'm going to show you how to uninstall tweaks entirely. What you want to do then is start by closing the program, of course, deleting it from where you had it placed. This is where I had it, tweaks. And then you're going to want to go into app data roaming. This is an internal folder on Windows. If you click up here in the bar and just do % app data and then %, press enter, it will take you to roaming. Here you can see a folder called Dishonored Tweaks. Delete this folder. It contains the backup that the game created, which can be pretty big, and it also includes the settings and stuff for the program. So just delete the entire Dishonored Tweaks folder inside of here, and then you have Tweaks fully uninstalled. Bye!